everyone, Nicole, Russo, and Dan Illman welcoming you back to the Oaks Countdown. As we kicked things off last week, we told you that things were about to kick into high gear with the first race of the season awarding 50 Oaks qualifying points to its winner. Last weekend's Rachel Alexandra shook up the leaderboard a little bit. We'll take a look at that current Oaks points leaderboard, and you'll see two new names right there at the top right away. Pretty Mischievous, who won the Rachel Alexandra, upsetting heavy favorite Hoosier Philly, and Mimi Kakushi, who won the UAE Oaks from the first crop of City of Light. We'll have to kind of wait and see what her plans are, Dan. In some years, we have had some fillies coming over from Dubai to run in the U.S. later on.
I would assume that the route's going to be for Mimi Kakushi, a run in the UAE Derby against the males. And then if she comes out of that race, okay, a spot in the Kentucky Oaks. She has won 3 races in a row. She has a strong American pedigree and sold for $250,000. But the waters obviously are going to get deeper here, even though this division, as you mentioned, it's wide open right now.
It really is. You know, the divisional champion coming into the year, Wonder Wheel, we discussed last week, maybe needed the race coming off the layoff. I certainly wouldn't throw her out, but with her defeat last weekend in the Suncoast, with a new filly stepping up to pull a mild upset in the Rachel Alexandra, you sort of have the good 2-year-old fillies versus the right now fillies, and it does create a wide open division.
And we were expecting a bit of a coronation at the fairgrounds last week. Hoosier Philly was not only odds on in the Grade 2 Rachel Alexandra, but there were whispers that maybe she would be a Kentucky Derby prospect if all went right. Well, the trip didn't go right for Hoosier Philly. She didn't run exactly up to par, and Pretty Mischievous is now 63 points atop the board.
Yeah, and we will take a look at that chart for the Rachel Alexandra, and you'll see right away we've highlighted that, you know, Hoosier Philly, the beaten favorite, who we'll discuss first, did have some trouble. She bobbled at the break, was taken a little bit out of her game as she had to rate behind, you know, a slow pace that just didn't leave her much to work with down the lane. And, you know, she making her first start since November, I think there's probably room to move forward off that, but kind of not the coronation, as you said, that people were expecting.
And you're right, the trip wasn't there. She didn't break well. She was in and among horses going into the backstretch behind a slow pace, but I think you wanted to at least see her finish a little better. She was 1 pace from the 3/16 all the way down to the wire. There wasn't that acceleration. If she had finished third, beaten 2 lengths with that trouble, I think you're able to draw a line through this race and say she ran really well. We can now see her next time show what she truly is made of and strut her stuff. Now there are more questions than answers.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's to take nothing away from the winner, Pretty Mischievous, who is now, you know, stepping up and answering some questions in her own right about how good she is. You know, this is a filly who won her first 2 starts at Churchill Downs, was third behind Hoosier Philly in the Golden Rod, and has turned the tables a little bit this winter meeting at the fairgrounds, won the Untappable in December, and then continued right along to win the Rachel Alexandra. And I thought she was pretty game down the lane in that performance.
Oh, she was very game indeed, and she has that tactical speed that allows the jockey to work out any kind of a trip. She is pace adaptable. The pace was not fast in the Rachel Alexandra. She sat just off it. She went after Todd Pletcher-trained Miracle, and she was very game to win. It's tough to get big Beyer speed figures in slow-paced races, so let's take that 83 Beyer for Pretty Mischievous with a grain of salt. She beat the Alley's Look 2 starts back in the Untappable, and the Alley's Look has something like an 88 Beyer going into her next race. I think that Pretty Mischievous is okay right now. I think this division right now is merely okay and is still waiting for a standout, but she belongs as one of the top 5 at the very least.
Absolutely. And, you know, Pretty Mischievous, a filly who is just bred in the blue for Godolphin, which is having a great winter and spring here with its fillies. Pretty Mischievous by leading sire Into Mischief out of a Grade 1 winning Tappet mare in Pretty City Dancer, who is a very good 2-year-old. And Into Mischief right now has 3 of the top 4 fillies on the points leaderboard in Pretty Mischievous, Champion Wonder Wheel, and the beaten Hoosier Philly.
It's been a remarkable run for Into Mischief, who is perennially the leading stallion. It seems every time you look up on any sort of a leaderboard, a racehorse is sired by Into Mischief. He has pretty much taken the mantle perhaps away from the aging Tappet, who you see there's the broodmare sire, Pretty Mischievous, as the best sire in North America right now.
Yeah, four-time reigning leading sire, and you cross him over another dominant classic sire in Tappet, who's the most successful sire in the modern history of the Belmont Stakes. Into Mischief himself, the sire of a Derby winner and Authentic, and several other two-turn winners. Pretty City Dancer is a half-sister to Gazelle winner Lear's Princess. And, you would certainly think that the 1.125 1.25 of some of the big filly races through the spring and summer is going to be well within the wheelhouse for this filly.
Oh, no doubt about it in my mind. She's handled the 1.116 with the plum. She has just a versatile pedigree. Pretty City Dancer won the spin away going 7/8 at Saratoga. You mentioned Lear's Princess, who could certainly go longer. And the Into Mischiefs are so versatile. They handle any sort of trip.
Yeah. Well, coming up, we'll see sort of what's next on the trip to the Oaks for a couple of other fillies. Our upcoming points races, again, both 50-point races for the winner that can really move the needle on the leaderboard. The Honeybee at Oaklawn, the Santa Isabel at Santa Anita. And in the Honeybee, we're going to see another Godolphin homebred stakes winning filly in Wet Paint, who I think shows a lot of promise.
Well, Wet Paint, of course, already has won a prep race at Oaklawn Park. She scored in the Martha Washington last time out, which has given her 20 points on the road to the Kentucky Oaks. She'll face several of the fillies she dispatched in the Martha Washington, but that is going to be a big competitive field, and perhaps that's the race where we'll see the big standout. The Grade 3 Santa Isabel, weather permitting, Nicole, looks like they've already canceled Friday's card at Santa Anita due to expected rain. Hopefully this will remain on schedule. Scheduling is so important for these horses. They work backwards from the Kentucky Oaks.
Absolutely. Everybody works backwards, as you said, and kind of has their plan A and then their plan B contingency plan. Should your filly bruise a foot? Should a racing card be canceled, as we're discussing now? But certainly not kind of what you want to have to go to plan B at any stage, especially as we get closer and closer to these spring classics, with the Oaks now just 10 weeks from this Friday.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And there are still some fillies out there that may not be race ready, but I think that we should be keeping an eye on down the road at Southern California. And Tell Me No Lies, who was a Grade 1 stakes winner last year, looks like she's resuming her training. I did talk to John Terranova, the trainer of Frizette runner-up You're My Girl. He's really excited to get this New York bred back and on the trail.
Absolutely. And, as we said, sort of the emerging right now fillies versus those fillies who had really good 2-year-old form. It looked like a promising group last year, with a number stepping up and running good races in, Grade 1 company behind Wonder Wheel, behind some of these others. So yeah, that's a very good point that, we're discussing this points leaderboard and their accomplishments, but there are a lot of fillies who we haven't seen yet this year.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And again, because this division is so wide open, it might only take one breakthrough performance, not even from a filly on the list, not even from the 2 horses I just mentioned. A maiden winner maybe comes out of nowhere, runs a gigantic race, and all of a sudden she's on the trail. We still are a while away from the Kentucky Oaks. Tie yourself in, folks, because there's a long way to go and there's a lot of talent out there.
Well, in the near future, get tied in for this weekend's big prep races where, as we said, the point values are increasing. If you run first, if you run second, you're putting yourself right on this wide open leaderboard. And we'll be back to give you a look at the latest leaderboard, at the latest prep performances next week, right here on the Oaks Countdown on DRFTV.